Hey, this is Max. Welcome back to another CSR2 video. I'm here with the XJ220. A viewer asked me to review its Stage 6 effects. So let's take a look at this car, its Stage 6s, and what effects it has on its overall performance. Please note that this car is not Elite upgraded, so if you do have Elite upgrades with additional fusion slots, the performance will be different. Right now, the car is fully upgraded. This is full Stage 6, full fusion. I didn't really play with the tunes too much, but it is coming in at 7.9 dyno with the basic right, left, left setup. So right, left, left. Now, one interesting thing about this car is that it prefers to be launched with the needle drop. When you launch it with needle drop, it'll actually do better than if you launched it off of perfect and don't get the needle drop. However, with the needle drop, it basically gets dyno, or a little bit under dyno, which isn't a bad thing. Now, I skipped out a first a little fast there. It shouldn't really affect this car that much. It should still come in under dyno with that little skip, as long as you can get nitrous going in second. So as you can see, without skipping into second too early, I got a 7.908 before. Now I did a 7.928, which isn't great, but the dyno is 7.948. All right, so that is stage 6. Let's look at stage 5 only. One of the interesting things about this car is that going from stage 6 to stage 5, you really don't lose a whole lot. And that's going to affect its stage 6s, because if you're not losing a lot of performance between fully maxed and stage 5, that means each individual stage 6 will have much less of an effect. This is also true of the McLaren F1, which we'll discuss in another video. But cars like this, where stage 6 and stage 5 has a much smaller margin of difference, you're not going to see as much of an effect from individual stage 6s. Not to say they won't have something, but it'll be very little. So let's take a look at stage 5 real quick. Now, stage 5 only, obviously, I'm probably going to have to tweak something. Let me see if any of this changes will affect the Evo numbers. Maybe lower tire grip. Let's see if that helps. No, seems like right, right, left is still the right way to go. And now you're looking at an 8.798 dyno. That is basically a dyno at stage 5 full fusion fast enough to take out Harkness. That's really quick. Not too many tier 5 cars can do this. There are probably 5 or 6 of them that are like this, including the F1, this one, 1 or 2 of the Bugattis, and Ferrari FXXK can get to 8.9s. So there are a limited number of cars that does this, but what had happened is, I think, when Natural Motion boosted some of these cars, whoever did the programming didn't really put a lot of effort other than just upgrading everything in a, straight up increase the performance and leave it at that. So it moves the stage 5 into a very high performance level without really touching on the final performance of the car. It could also be because of the Elite, who knows? But not every tier 5 car does this, even though they're boosted. So you have to kind of look at them and see which one does what. But naturally, with such an increase in performance at stage 5 only, we're going to expect a lot less changes from stage 6. So we're already at 8.7s. Let's take a look at each individual stage 6s, starting with engine. These things doesn't change much. You're going to see some changes, but notice the Evo jump is relatively small, 40 points. That doesn't bode well for a lot of change. Plus, we're only going from 8.7 to 7.9. That's only 0.8 seconds of difference. So this is not going to change by a lot. Engine actually did pretty well. You almost got 2/10 there from just engine. And unlike most things, you don't really have to change the tune. It just stays there. So that makes the stage 6 effects a lot easier to tell, because you just add the stage 6, put the fusions in, there's your margin. So you just went from 8.7 to 8.5. So that's 0.2 right there. Engine is pretty useful. What about the rest of these? Well, we know from experience turbo isn't necessarily going to do as much. and in fact the Evo dropped, and that's not a good sign. Anytime the Evo goes down, it means you're not going to have much of a change, if any, uh, from the stage 6, particularly when this also didn't go up by much. So 8.777 from an 8.79. So you're talking about very marginal changes, and again, moving the final drive, moving nitrous, none of this seems to increase the Evo, it only drops it. So you went from 8.9 to 8.7, about a 200s drop, very little drop from turbo, but it is expected, and I'm sure intake isn't going to be that much better, knowing how these things usually work. So now that we've seen turbo with its marginal effect, let's take a look at intake. Again, you always want to watch the Evo changes as well as the PP changes. If this goes down again, and it did, intake is going to be just like turbo. It's going to have very marginal effects, and quite possibly only a hundredth or two at best. And it is in fact worse than turbo. So intake right now is at the bottom with a very little change, about a hundredth change from stage 5 only. So 2/10 from one, and then the rest so far has been pretty much duds. Okay, nitrous body, tire, and trans tend to have at least one or two that are decent. We do have to make up from 8.5 to 7.9, so some of these are going to do something. And nitrous doesn't seem to be the one. It looks like nitrous duration will be a little longer. It's going to do something, but it's not going to be great. Let's take a look. So again, minimal, and it barely changed the performance. So nitrous isn't a big thing for this car. Even if you add it in, it does something, but not a whole lot. That's not a good thing. Usually we want to have nitrous have some good performance, because a lot of cars with strong nitrous effects can be used, or tuned, I should say, to take advantage of that nitrous to beat dyno. In this case, I don't think this car will be able to do that. And certainly it probably won't easily beat dyno by much, if anything. Now it can beat dyno a little bit, that's for sure, but not by like 2/10 or 3/10 very easily, like some cars. Okay, now body, let's take a look. Body tend to be big for tier 5 cars, so this could be a big one, or it could be just as good as, say, engine was. This might be a 2/10 drop. Let's take a look. So now you have 2/10 from engine, basically nothing from the other three, and a decent drop from body. Body actually beat engine so far, because that went from 8.7 to 8.5. This is 8.4. So this is definitely an improvement. So the top two right now is body and engine. That put us about 5/10 in, right? So 2/10 from body, 3/10 from engine. So now you're 5/10 from 8.9. You're looking at like one went to 8.4, 8.5. So you're probably looking at 8.1, 8.2 now with just these two stage 6s. That means the rest of these two should only make a difference of about another 2/10 total, which isn't much. Let's see if tire will do something here. A little bit. Tire does a little bit. That might not be as strong as engine though. From the number changes, I'm estimating it's probably in the 8.6s. Let's take a look. 8.555. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and look at engine again. I think it actually beats engine by a slight bit. So tire actually isn't that terrible. There's another 2/10 for you. So you got tire, you got engine, and you have body in the front. So body, tire, engine so far, with the others on the end. So it really comes down to, where does trans fall? Trans has to make up the difference now between 7.9 and maybe 8.0, 8.1 and change. It's not going to be a big boy, but it should do something. And it really went down. Now, you may be able to tune around this, but I doubt it. It doesn't seem like that big a drop in Evo is going to be just tuned around very easily. It does almost nothing. Again, 200s, just like turbo. In fact, now I have to go back and look at turbo and see if trans, in fact, comes above it or below it. So that's the final result here, that you can tell There's 3 big ones that does anything, and then you have 4 that basically does nothing. So combinations. This is where combination comes in. If I look at the 3 that did a lot, it tells me these 3 should drop this car right to about 8.1 with body and engine and tire. Just these 3 should drop the performance to about 8.1 because the rest of them are in the hundreds differences. It might even be 8.0 before you even put in the rest of the stage 6s. That's not good because really, if you don't have these 3, you're done. See? You're talking about going from 7.9 to 8.031 with 3 stage 6, and then the rest of them basically does nothing. So really, for this car, you only care about 3 out of 7, and the rest are just going to tweak it towards that 7.9 performance at the end. Not a very good thing, very biased towards very strong stage 6s, but then again, the good news is you're starting off with pretty high performance, so you're not missing out on a huge amount, despite the fact that 3 will make the difference pretty much between max and the stage 5 only. That also means, for the most part, even if you get these 4, trans, nitrous, turbo intake, it's going to do very little. It's probably going to drop it from like an 8.7 to 8.5 at best, maybe even 8.6s by the end. So it's not a very positive thing to get those 4 when they barely change the performance. Look at this, almost 8.7. It barely changed anything. So these 4 are pretty much worthless, and the other 3 will do pretty much everything. However, to go from that 8.0 to the 7.9, you need the rest of these 4. So that is kind of my stage 6 effects video on this car. Understand that this car is actually strong with stage 5 only, but without the 3 top stage 6s, it's really not that strong. And if you're doing something like legend races where you just need to be faster to win, then it's critical that you get those 3 particular stage 6s, or if you don't manage to pull them, you're probably going to be stuck for some time to come. All right, that is my stage 6 effects discussion on the XJ220. Any questions, feel free to ask. Again, I see this car in live pretty often, and as long as it's under 9-second brackets, this car is actually pretty competitive as well, all the way up to about 8.0, to be honest. But once you get closer to fully maxed, of course, your competition gets closer to you, and then those competition that can still beat Dyno will beat you in live. If you like the video, please leave a like. I always welcome comments, as I said earlier. If you like my videos, please subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications when I put up new videos. And as always, thank you for watching my videos. I'll catch you next time.